There is only one city in the entire world that opened a subway, only to later close it. That subway was in the United States, in Rochester, New York, to be exact. Therefore, when I visited Rochester last summer for the purpose of visiting the city where my parents met and went to college, one question lurking in my mind was why? Why did Rochester's subway close? Rochester seems like an unlikely city to have a subway in the first place. But if you take a look at the sort of city Rochester was when the subway was built in the 1920s, it makes a lot more sense. It was a city of over 300,000 people in 1925, 2 years before the Rochester subway was built. And it had about 9,100 people per square mile. This is a similar population density to present day Lausanne, Switzerland, a city with a heavily used rail system, despite having less than half the population of Rochester in the 1920s. The reason I compare 1920s Rochester to modern day Lausanne is this. If a train system could succeed today in Lausanne, then a train system could conceivably succeed in a city with a larger population and similar population density to Lausanne today. And yet, Rochester subway didn't succeed. But why? Why did the Rochester subway close in the mid 1950s, about 3 decades after it was built? Some of the blame can be directed at the rise of the car as the preferred mode of transport after World War II. And there is some truth to that, as ridership with mass transit systems as a whole plummeted elsewhere due to people choosing cars over buses or trains. But there is an even bigger source of blame than the car, in my opinion. That blame can be directed towards where the subway was built, as well as where it wasn't built. It was built in places where the land use surrounding the stations was single family housing, downtown Rochester notwithstanding. This is not the sort of land use that generally encourages high transit ridership. It was also unhelpful that Rochester didn't make the effort to change its land use around stations, so that more people could live or work near said stations, thus promoting ridership. Just as critical, if not more so, was where the subway wasn't built. Namely, it didn't go to the headquarters of Rochester's most important company at the time, Kodak. There was a connection to Kodak's operations by way of a surface trolley line for a short period of time. But for nearly the entire existence of the subway, it didn't connect to Kodak workers. To put into context just how massive of a mistake that was, Kodak employed about 20,000 people in Rochester when the subway was built. If just 20% of those 20,000 Kodak employees used the Rochester subway, that would be 4,000 daily riders. For some context, fewer than 10 LA Metro rail stations have more than 4,000 daily riders. If the Rochester subway didn't make these mistakes, it may have been around for longer, and may even still be around today. Heck, with the growth of the University of Rochester, as well as the university's medical center, maybe an extension to U of R could have been possible at some point. As my parents are 1985 graduates of U of R, I can't help but fantasize an alternate reality where my parents could have taken the subway from U of R to some other part of the city. I fantasize that about my mom in particular, as she did a lot at the Eastman School of Music in downtown Rochester. A subway connecting downtown Rochester to U of R's River campus would have been very useful for her. But that's just speculation and fantasy on my part. What is fact, though, is that many modern American rail systems are repeating the same mistakes that Rochester made with its subway. Rochester's subway made the mistake of not fulfilling the core function of an urban transit system, connecting where people work to where people live. Some modern American rail systems make that same mistake at times. The one difference is that, instead of building train stations by single family housing, as Rochester did in the 1920s, We're building train stations surrounded by highways and parking lots. And because the mistakes made by Rochester's subway are being repeated by American transit systems today, I feel it's important to tell the story of the Rochester subway and its demise. After all, one common saying is that those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it. So, we should learn from Rochester, so that way, other transit systems don't repeat similar mistakes in the future.